Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just after close on Monday, May 3rd. Today we're going to do the thing that I'm doing on Mondays for the time being, which is take a look at Palantir and try to figure out where it's at in the broader context by looking at the macro chart, and then try to figure out what it could be doing this week by looking at the micro chart. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And let's jump right in. So Palantir on the 3-month, 2-hour chart, like I said last week, I still contend that it has broken the weight under which it was being crushed by this downtrend, and now is basically consolidating sideways, which is fine. And so the next thing to look for is for it to kind of break this consolidation. And if we kind of look at where it is in here, I'd probably lop a bunch of that off. But it's sort of like in this, I don't even know, we'll just make it green for the heck of it. But it's sort of in this consolidation channel. This isn't a channel that I would consider playing, because those channels that I like to play are for more significant moves. When something's consolidating, it's really just kind of like moving sideways for the most part for potentially a long period of time. And kind of the way that I like to think of it is it's kind of building up potential energy, like storing potential energy for its next big move. But we don't know if that move will be up or down. That's what we try to look for signs for and basically make hypotheses about with this charting. So that's the consolidation that I would look for it to break out of, and that might be one of your first indications that it's making a move in one direction or another, depending on which way it breaks. And it could do something like this, where it broke, but it couldn't hold it for very long at all. That was like half of a trading day, and then by the first half of the next trading day, it was already back into this consolidation channel. So that's what I'd look for on the consolidation side. A more significant break that's a true break, meaning this consolidation channel just no longer exists because it's broken out of it. And then in terms of like zones that we could look at for potential actual price movement, I still have my stop loss, and this is just me personally. You should do for yourself what kind of aligns with your risk tolerance and your whatever your goals are for your trading account. But mine's at $20. I couldn't get the cursor on 20 for some reason, so it's $19.99. But that would basically mean that it fell pretty significantly out of this consolidation channel, and that would potentially indicate, the consolidation has completed and the next move is actually going to be further down. For all of you that missed or that were sort of like lamenting having missed buying Palantir at $9, maybe you'll get another chance. No, I hope that's not the case. But I had that thought earlier today. But that's where I have my stop loss. I would say like a cautionary zone, sort of like watch out if it didn't bounce here, would be somewhere around here. So it has consistently held this zone. The two potential problems I would see with it if it did fall underneath this 2132 is, one, it would have broken its channel, its consolidation channel, so already a bad sign. But then if it had to test 2132 again, my worry is that because it tested all these times before, I would worry that it's doing that thing that we've talked about previously with like AMC comes to mind, where I call it went to the well too many times, meaning it went back down there again and tried to find the buying pressure that previously held at that price, and the buyers just weren't there anymore. And that can definitely happen. And so I worry at some point, it whatever buying pressure there was that was allowing it to hold that level recedes over time because all of those buyers are already in, and folks are looking for an even better deal. So I would be cautious of that. So we'll leave that as definitely yellow. This is sort of, let me expand back through here. Trying to see where there's a nice zone of support and resistance. This is a pretty decent one. There's this previous support, and then this previous support and resistance here, and then the same thing kind of happening right there. So I'd look for 23.31 to help us get up. So if we can sort of like get some support there, that could be a significant help. Something in this area, 24.08. It used to love that. I can't remember. I think it was like 24.28, I think was the zone in which it kept coming down to for the longest time. And then it would go up to it, then it would come back down to it, go up to it and come back down to it. And, that could have suffered from the thing that I just described, which is like it just went to the well too many times. And one time it got there and the buyers weren't there anymore and it fell through, and now we're wishing that we were at 24.28 instead of feeling sad about it. But these are the price zones that I look for in the coming days if we are going to get some footholds with which to make a bullish push. Obviously, as we approach that 26.88 level, we start to potentially get ourselves out of the consolidation channel on the bullish side, and that would be good to see. I mean, I don't know that's going to happen this week. That would be a huge percentage move. And while Palantir historically has had the possibility of those things, I don't know that it would happen this week, but we will see. But those are the zones that I look for. Again, I would pay attention to the consolidation zone to see if it's going to break out or not. All right, I'm going to get rid of this. You can always back up the video if you want to screenshot anything or whatever. Let's take a look at the MAs. Okay, so as I would expect, they are coiling up. This consolidation period, like I said, it's winding up. It's preserving energy to make its next big move. Don't take those things too literally, but it's a way to think about, what you may be seeing. And these MAs all bunching up together, the way that I use this as a trading signal is I wait for them to start to unwind and then see which direction they're going. So the tighter they are together, I typically just wait and let the consolidation play out. So this is, if you're like really intent on trading Palantir, this is a good time to practice your trading patience and not jump in just because you're tired of watching a stock. So in periods like this, I let the bundling and the bunching up play out, and then when there's a sharp move one direction or the other, that's when I sort of say, okay, it's unwinding, bullish or bearish, and make my decision then. Obviously, right now, it's turning slightly bearish. The 12 and the 20 just crossed over the 180. The 50 is looking like it's going to come down and cross over the 180, which then it would be in a full bearish setup, like we saw like over here, more or less. So, that's not a super sign, but obviously Palantir had a bad day today. The RSI is still not quite oversold somehow, but, the sad thing is, as it's making these lower highs, it's still getting to overbought territory. And so the overbought here only brought the stock to like 24, 21, and then when it was overbought here, it was all the way up around 26 or so, or at least high 25s. So that's the issue now, that it's moving, like the lower highs are coming in, and the RSI is still getting into overbought territory. So that's not helpful. On the MACD, looking pretty bearish right now, which, if it does turn around sometime soon, the thing that may give us some hope is that this dip here was lower than this dip here. And now if this dip here is lower, yes, it still is kind of in a not super exciting position, but that would mean that the bearish momentum is dying down and may give sort of like a foothold from which to make a bigger bullish push. So I would look for this to reverse soon, and then it would be definitely declining bearish pressure, and then we'll have to see a big push to the upside in order for it to turn, kind of concretely bullish. Okay, so that is the macro, giving us an overall sense of where we are. Again, you'd use that just if you want sort of like broader context, and or if you do like investing, longer term swing trades, that sort of thing, long dated call options, maybe something like that. You use, a time frame that suits your strategy, essentially. All right, so let's flip it over for anyone doing shorter term trading. And like these things, both of those describe me. I have like a longer term Palantir position. That's the one with the $20 stop loss that I mentioned. And then I often will go in and play it for shorter term swing trades by way of options. So this is a pretty ugly 5 days here. Yeah, mostly just zones at play. I mean, obviously there's this big gap here, which could potentially, use some filling back up, which would bring it into the 23s at least. So that's something. If you hear the doorbell ringing, my 3-year-old loves doorbells, and so he's going to town on it right now. I'll try to edit it out, but it's not a bad sound. For any of you who've heard the baby screaming or things like that, this is nothing. So, all right. So here are some zones to look for in the coming days. There's not a great support because, as you see, it's just continuing to kind of fall here. So there's not a great support zone. It's, it looked like it was producing a floor here earlier in the day, and then it was like, nope, I can go down further. So, I mean, we'll put it there for now, but there's not really a great indication of much of anything for a floor. So there might be more dip in store. I don't know. But these would be really solid zones to the upside. A lot of these zones are encompassing both support and resistance. So you see the support zones here, and then obviously it got beat down, couldn't get back over it. But this one also, resistance was support to jump here, tried to hold it here. So these are pretty solid zones. I prefer the ones that have both support and resistance in the history. Those are typically stronger. But these are so basically what I'm going to look for this week is if it can establish in the mid 22s and get a floor there, then I would see a path to potentially come fill in this gap. So it's not like any super significant move. Looking for a buck, $1.50 to start out with, and kind of go from there. But that would be what I'd be looking for the price zones and the targets from Palantir this week. Unfortunately, no channel or anything kind of showing up. And let's look at the indicators. Maybe there's something helpful there. So fairly bullish, that's not a word that we're using very much with Palantir these days. Fairly bearish on the MAs. The one decent thing though is this is bunching up quite a bit, and the distance is helpful because when there's all of this distance here and it's moving down, then that can often sort of like lead to a longer term sell-off. So the fact that it was able to come back and re-bunch with the 50 is helpful. Now, if the 180 can come screaming in and offer additional support, that would be potentially another opportunity for the stock to get a foothold and pick itself up. The other thing that I was noticing too is that it was like, I think today's volume was about half of what its 3-month average volume is. And obviously that goes through the period of time where there was like the big run up and everything. So, but that's something to look at. You can also look at like the cost distribution of the shares and see if a lot of people are underwater on Palantir, which might, run you the risk that they are going to cut losses and like further sell off, or if, there's a lot of folks that are still kind of in the green, which might sort of give some holding strength to the stock and build back. I'll do something about that down the road. because it can be pretty helpful, but it's hard to cover in these videos because I don't want to pull up too many different screens. RSI, pretty close to being oversold. It's still having like really hard times getting into overbought territory. This I would like ignore. That's obviously like, it popped through this big gap, but then it very quickly like came back down. So, for anyone who even had the opportunity to catch that, like it was probably very minimal, being that it was also at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, but here it just got into overbought territory. So like nothing super significant happening here. I mean, it's a consolidation period overall. So that's why there's a lot of this just kind of like flatness about it. On the MACD, so kind of some similar ishness to the 2 hour that we looked at. So there's this big dip, and then it kind of like, kind of pitter-pattered about, and now another big dip. But this big dip, yes, while it's deeper than these two, we can think of these, this one here and this one here as like the significant moves. So this of these significant moves, this one is quite a bit less than this dip. So that could, I'm trying to infuse some potential sunshine into this picture, but that could give some potential like bearish momentum is decreasing kind of vibe. If we say that, though, we also have to say the bullish momentum has been dying down too, because there's this peak and then this lower peak, and now we're sub baseline. So it has plenty of room if it wants to snap itself back up, but it's just, it's not throwing super strong indications that there's a lot of bullish sentiment that's going to come rushing in. I think the best bets is potentially these MAs. If this 180 can come rushing down to offer additional support, if the price can establish over the 180 and push off of it and into those price zones that I had just charted and then deleted, that might be our next best opportunity for a little like foothold and a push upward. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it made sense. Give you some ideas, some things that you could look for. Maybe you disagree with all of it, and you can comment below and tell folks what you think. And all of those things are welcome. But thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck if you're trading Palantir this week or in the future or what have you. Okay, well, I will see you all in the next video.